Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Joy of Sticks. Stickhead here with your Atari ST gaming channel. Now today I'm once again trying something new. I really love ST magazines, and I love leafing through them, having a read and being transported back to that time when the ST was actually current. But yeah, so I thought I'd share some of that with you. So we're going to have a look at some magazines together, and well, we'll look at one together. If it works well, I might do some more. If it's rubbish, I won't do any more, and you can let me know in the comments what you think. I'm going to start with this one, ST Action #1. There's a good reason why I'm starting with this one. It's because I actually read it the other day. I've got a physical copy of my own upstairs. But yeah, there's an interview in it that was really interesting to read. Yeah, it's ST Action #1. It was released on May 1988. You can see that over here. And it cost £1.30. Those were the days, eh? Those were the days. Yeah, so let's have a look, shall we? Now, you can actually read along with this if you want to, or watch the video, and then if anything takes your fancy, go and have a read yourself, because this issue has been made available on the Atari Mania website, and I'll put a link in the description so you can go and check it out. Which, I mean, the Atari Mania website, what a fantastic resource, and it gets better and better all the time. But there's loads of magazines on there, so I thought rather than me holding up my copy for my rubbish webcam, we'd have a look at this digital copy, and you can have a look at the exact same copy. So yeah, here it is, ST Action #1. Now I'm just going to scat, because there's hundreds of pages. If I look at every page in detail, we'll be here all day, so I won't do that. But I am going to scroll through these fantastic looking adverts. Look at that, Captain Blood. Now, if I remember rightly, that's the box art for Captain Blood as well. Amazing. Alright, so what did I want to point out to you? First of all, I wanted to point out this amazing picture of Robb Hubbard. Check that out, isn't that amazing? It's certainly of its time there. Hope Rob isn't watching this. No offence, Rob. But yeah, one of the cool things that's in this magazine... Oh, let's have a look at this Rolling Thunder advert. I like Rolling Thunder. The ST conversion comes under a lot of stick, but I actually quite like it. What's this lady doing to that man's trousers? Didn't see that first time round. The revolving tower caused problems for some of the guests. Oh dear. It was obviously a bit scary for that gentleman. Yeah, so we've got some news. US Gold releasing lots of games. Oh dear. Not always good. Apart from Gauntlet 2. Fantastic game. And a really good conversion. Road Wars. Is that a game I've played? Road Wars? I think it is. I only got really vague memories of that. Ah, now this is cool. In this issue there's a roundup of shoot 'em up games. They call it a mega test. It turns out most of them are really mediocre. Games like Gold Runner. I mean, Gold Runner's got some fantastically smooth scrolling. That was a wonder to see on the ST at the time. It was like, wow, welcome to the next generation with 16 colours smoothing up, one VBL. It was amazing, but far too difficult. Far too difficult. That's a game that people have said I should test my new capture hardware with, because it scrolls so smoothly. There you go, Screaming Wings, decidedly average. Plutos, now there's a game. Very simple, but a beautiful shooter. Xenon, classic. Now, Skyrider, Slapfight, Trauma, Xevious, Hades Nebula. Now, if you look down here, you can see the scores that they give them. Xevious gets 36%. Oh! No, it's not the best conversion, but 36%, it's not that bad. Flipping it. What's this? Screaming Winds with 25. They're harsh in this magazine. 25%. Oh my word. But yeah, quite rightfully, Xenon gets a nice meaty 85. I think that's about right. I'd probably give it a little bit more, but I'm biased. They also give Hades Nebula. I need to zoom in really so you can see those scores. They also give Hades Nebula a nice respectable 78. So that was surprising. But let's have a look. What do they say about Hades Nebula? It's a good game. However, it does have two main faults. For reasons unknown to me, the game seems fit to crash after the player reaches the third level. So you can only play 2 levels, get to the third and it crashes. But yet they give it 75%. Madness. Absolute madness. Do you think they were on the payroll for Nexus Software? It does say at the top here, look. Before I go any further, I must point out that due to the bankruptcy of Nexus Software, Hades Nebula might be somewhat difficult to find. That's probably why I've never played it, because it disappeared without a trace. It looks nice. Look at the graphics. Very nice. But yeah, how can you give a game 75% when it only gives you 2 levels to play? Very strange. Very strange. Anyway, onward. Oh, nice advert for Gunship. Gunship gets a review in this this issue, actually. Now here's the reason why I dug this magazine out in the first place. It's an interview with Jeff Minter. Now there's a number of really interesting things in this article to find out about, things that the younger Jeff Minter has said. But the reason I dug it out was because of recent events. I don't know if you know, but Jeff's come under a bit of trouble recently because of his game TXK. Now, if you haven't played TXK, it's a fantastic game. It's based on Tempest. He released it for the PlayStation Vita. Just an amazing game. So good. It's probably the best thing on the system, to be fair. And yeah, it is like Tempest, but obviously iterating on that, kind of, you know, carrying on the work he did for things like Tempest on the Jaguar. Was that Tempest 2000? And then other Tempests. But yeah, going far and beyond and making it amazing. But yeah, now Atari, or Atari, which is Infogrames in disguise, have decided that he's in breach of their copyright and put a block on future releases of TXK, which is a massive kick in the nuts, because he was working on all sorts of versions, not least one for virtual reality headsets, which would have been just amazing. So yeah, gutted about that, and I think Jeff is too. But it's really interesting, some of the things that he says here in this interview. Let's have a look, shall we? Oh look, it says here, like, his first computer was a ZX80. Fantastic. Second computer, ZX81, expanded to 16K. 16K. Just imagine that. Yeah, so it goes through talking about his early stuff, like Grid Runner, Hover Bother, that kind of thing. But let's see if I can find where it says, because then it mentions that it's been a while, at this point, 1988, since his last release. And it gives you a good reason for it here. He says, I've been thoroughly naffed off with the games field. All we've had recently is the big companies pumping out trashy licensed games. And obviously this magazine from 1988, you know, that's absolutely what it was like back then. And it says, Minter's dislike of commercially processed video games is quite clear, and his arguments are sound. I don't have to buy ideas from anyone else. I'm a designer as well as a programmer. I prefer to work on ideas which appeal to me. It's important to put some of your own personality into your games. The guys who produce the licensed games have to do little in the way of imaginative thinking. They have to satisfy the license owner and therefore have no chance to express themselves. I thought that was a really eloquent way to put it. I mean, we always blast licensed games and lack of originality, and now it's more about sequels, isn't it? That, you know, we see lack of originality there. But Jeff puts it in that really nice way, that's sympathetic with the developers' way, that they're just not getting a chance to exercise their imagination. And you know, that seems to be the case today with AAA titles. There's not a lot of imagination going into those big games. They're pretty much Me Too type titles, of, you know, running around in a beige world shooting people. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of imaginative titles to be found on the indie scene these days. So, you know, I do count myself lucky for that. What else does he say? Oh yeah, that made me wonder, because not long after this interview, Jeff Minter works on a conversion for Defender 2, And it makes me wonder what that was like, because obviously that's a licensed title from the arcade. But there is a lot of Jeff Mintery things in there, the sound effects and stuff. And obviously he loves Defender. So that's it. I thought that was an interesting balance. Did he feel confined and unable to use his imagination? Did the owner of the Defender license at the time tell him he couldn't do certain things? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in other interviews as we look in later magazines. He goes on later to say about... Here we go. In the game scene these days, the software companies, who are the equivalent of the record labels, are pushed and marketed with relentless image moulding hype. The situation is pretty crazy. After all, you wouldn't buy a Pink Floyd record just because it was released on EMI. I'm just trying to be Pink Floyd, not EMI. Which is a fantastic point, because, you know, at the time, people were buying games because of the name on the box, the publisher's name on the box. Rather than the name of the actual developers that worked on it, you know, which is crazy, really. If you like a game and you want to buy another one by the same people, then buying from the same publisher is pointless, because it could be completely different. But buying from the developers, you know, buying the developer's next game, you know, you're likely to like that if you like his previous work. So, I mean, that's just common sense as far as I'm concerned. He goes on a bit later to talk about the ST, and again the lack of creativity, the fact that there were a ton of vertical shoot-em-ups at this point being released for the ST, and he says it makes little sense for so many vertically scrolling games to appear on the ST. It's not very hot on scrolling because there's no special hardware facility. This leaves plenty of scope to use effects which do not involve scrolling, which is really interesting, because if you play Jeff's Llamasoft games for the ST, there's a lot of fantastic effects and they've worked brilliantly, but not a lot of scrolling. And that makes perfect sense to me, again. And not just in 1988, for the rest of the ST's commercial life. They would try and emulate these arcade games with huge sprites and scrolling, and it just didn't suit the ST at all. Just not at all. So yeah, I mean, Jeff talks a lot of sense in this interview. A lot of sense. And then he goes on to talk about his hardware setup, the kind of tools that he uses and things like that. And then he goes on to talk about his light synths. Yeah, so like Colour Space and Tripotron and things like that, which is all fascinating stuff. Absolutely fascinating stuff. But where am I? There's a bit down here somewhere where he talks about what he would change about the ST, and I've missed it somewhere. It was probably before the... Never mind, we'll just focus on Jeff's smiley face. And what he actually says is the interviewer asks him, what would you change about the ST? And he says he would like an enhanced graphics mode with more colours and hardware assisted scrolling. And he said he'd get rid of the poxy AY sound chip. End quote. I personally like the sound of the YM chip myself, but there you go. So then the interviewer says, well, it sounds like you'd get on better with the Amiga then, doesn't it? Because the Amiga has those kind of things. And he said, well, yeah, but the Amiga's not very approachable. He says he finds it a bit closed and confined, and you have to conform to a particular way of working to get the most out of the hardware. He says he likes the way the ST is completely clean and open to develop for. So that was nice to hear. What else? Oh yeah, look at this down here. Look at that rainbow ST. How amazing is that? Fantastic. Yeah, so that was a really fascinating read. That Jeff Minter interview. I definitely recommend you go and have a look if you're a fan of his games. Yeah, see what the man's perspective was like way back in the day. Alright, let's carry on then. What else is there? Let's zoom out a bit so you can get a better view of these adverts. Look at that, a 1 meg external disk drive. I tell you what, back in the day when I was looking at my first ST, it's a couple of years after this magazine was released actually, but the idea of an external disk drive, man, that was a pipe dream. Hints and tips. Gosh, you need hints and tips for Defender of the Crown. What a game. Extremely difficult. Some whiz-ball tips there. Oh, Look at this bit. The Totally Mega Infinite Lives poke section. Look at this. This is definitely of the time. Now, before this, before, you know, the Atari ST, before the 16-bit, with the 8-bit computers, you'd get loads of this kind of thing on magazines. Type-in games, where you could, you know, they give you reams and reams of this kind of basic instructions, and you'd type them in, and you'd press run, type run, and off you go. You've got a game. Oh, save it first, eh? That was a mistake I often made. But obviously, in the 16-bit era, games were too big to do that. Really, the reams and reams of code you'd have to print would take up so many pages. You just didn't see that kind of thing. But you did see this kind of thing, which were cheats for existing games. You know, you'd fire up your basic interpreter, and you'd type this in, and then you'd save it. You'd put in your game into the disk drive and then run this, and this would insert, you know, things into memory, and then launch the game. And those things that it would whack into the memory, like here, for, you know, infinite energy and black lamp, would change the game and give you cheats. So amazing stuff. Definitely of its time. You don't see stuff like that anymore. What is that? Some kind of map for Joe Blade. Subscribe to ST Action now. I wish I could. Shackled. That's a game I have no idea about. Oh, here we go. Another mega test. This time of the tools of the trade. It's a special on joysticks. How cool is this? And this picture here of all the joysticks that they cover in this review. Did you notice the amount of black and red? Why is that? Why are they all black and red? Is it something to do with cost? Or is it marketing? Were joysticks more likely to be bought if they were black and red? I don't know. There's a lot of black and red right there. But yeah, some of the usual suspects lined up there. It's quite a nice test, actually, the way they've laid it out. It reminds me of Witch Magazine, if you've ever read one of those. Witch Magazine, for those of you who don't know, is a consumer rights type magazine where it lays out things, really in-depth reviews and testing to make sure that the buyers of the magazine get the best deal. And it reminds me of that because of the way they've set it out. They've tested it with 3 different games, which they think test different aspects of the joystick use. That's quite cool. But oh my gosh, look at this. Star Trek. What on earth is that? Look. I mean, by this point, we're talking 1988. We'd actually seen some really good joypads by this point. You think of the Nintendo Entertainment System joypad or the Master System joypad. Why is this? Where? Apparently, that middle button there is the fire button, and these are all directional buttons. Can you imagine using it for anything? Oh man, absolutely disgusting. And we talk about ergonomics. Look at these sharp edges. Ooh. Absolutely grim. Surprisingly, it gets quite a good review. Look at this. It will need some time for a player to feel comfortable with. Need a millennia to feel comfortable with that. But once mastered, the Star Trek will become a force to be reckoned with. What planet are they on? And then they got one of these horrific grenade joysticks. I mean, what is that? No, just no. It says it's really hard to find the diagonals on it. Ugh. They got these horrible plasticky things. I can't imagine wanting to use one of those. But then look, we've got some absolutely fantastic joysticks on this page. This Elite looks pretty decent. It looks a funny shape. And I've never liked those joysticks where they've got one fire button in the middle. I always feel like I'm having a bit of a reach around. No, I don't like it. I like to keep my hand on the side. We used to have I think it's called an arcade stick or something like that. I can't remember who made it, but my uncle had it. It was a great stick, really robust, just like what you'd find on an arcade machine. A really nice big chunky button with a micro switch as well. It was a really good stick, but yeah, just didn't like the position of the fire button. And here we've got the absolute classics. I mean, these will forever battle it out for the greatest stick of the 16-bit era. But yeah, Competition Pro, and I know this as the Zip Stick, but they've called it the Professional, which is interesting. Perhaps that was its name before they decided to call it the Zip Stick. I don't know. But I've got quite a few of these. I think I've got about four or five, one broken one of these with the yellow. I've never seen a red one around in the wild. Something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, I mean, those are amazing. Really responsive, absolutely beautiful joysticks. And then, oh, we got this horrific thing here. Why would you want to recreate the original Atari VCS joystick? Oh, it was a wrist breaker. You'd have to be a professional masturbator to have a wrist strong enough to professional masturbator. Where did that come from? Yeah, I don't think that's a profession that actually exists, by the way. But yeah, it's to have the strength of wrist to be able to cope with one of these. Can you imagine playing Daley Thompson on one? Oh my word. But, you know, my view of these joysticks is biased by the fact that I had a revised one. When they remade them really cheaply and plasticky and rubbery. Whereas apparently the original VCS joystick, when the VCS was first released, was quite nice, and a lot of the innards were made of metal. And it was it was looser, more responsive. So yeah, I can't judge all Atari sticks, but yeah, Suncom have remade those. Why would you do that? I hate cheater joysticks. Cheap, light, plasticky feeling things that you feel like you could snap the shaft at any moment. This Datex one doesn't look any better. Never used one though. The Micro Blaster sounds interesting. Wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of those. What is this? The Joy Ball. Talking about professional masturbating. This looks like some kind of sex toy. Or sounds like one anyway. I don't think you could use that for sex. Well, maybe you could. I don't know. So I'm going to stop talking about sex. It's joysticks. Focus on the joysticks. But yeah, I mean, what is that? I don't even know. Is it just a joystick that's the shape of a ball? Why? Why would you do that? Oh dear. It says here, patience and determinations are qualities a player would need if he were to succeed with the Joy Ball. I bet. But this is a joystick I've wanted for a long time. The TAC 2. Look at that little beauty. It might be on the small side, but it looks so robust and cool. These metallic bits here. Nice little joy. I don't think it's micro-switched. I tend to enjoy micro-switch joysticks, but I don't think this one is. I might be wrong about that. But I would really like to get a hold of one of those. They look so cool, and they often review well as well. Ooh, the Quick Shot 2 Turbo, and we went through so many of these back when my uncle had an Amstrad. We had loads of these Quick Shots and their variants, and they just used to crumble in our hands. Absolutely cheap and flimsy and nasty, unresponsive, and it wouldn't take long for like a diagonal to stop working or something. No, not for me. That's Competition Pro and Zipsticks all the way. Zipsticks my personal favourite, but I do actually have right here a Competition Pro too, and yeah, it's a beauty, an absolute beauty. And in fact, here's my Zipstick sitting next to my ST. So I use those all the time. Absolutely fantastic joysticks. All right, anyway. Onward. Let's zoom out again so we can see these adverts and things. Some kind of giveaway there to celebrate the release of Test Drive. You could actually go on a test drive around a track in a race car. Very cool. Some kind of interview here with Novagen, makers of Mercenary. Top game that was. Top game. Now, what else did I want to show you on here? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, of course, the reviews. Now there's quite a few reviews in here. Lots and lots of mediocre games released in May 1988. Lots and lots of them. Let's see if we can find the start of the review section. Now, Oids, they criminally give 68%. I mean, come on. It's one of the greatest games on the ST and they give it 68%. I mean, you can take what he says with a pinch of salt when he starts talking about how you control this. Here it is. By manipulating the joystick to the left and right, you rotate the Slapfight at 360 degrees, while pushing the joystick forwards activates the thrust. So far, so good. Because you only have forward thrust, halting its forward momentum requires spinning the craft in exactly the opposite direction and then applying thrust. Yep, sounds good. Sounds Newtonian. I approve. However, the tendency to attempt to steer the craft by pulling back the joystick, which unnecessarily activates the exhausts a protective shield. I'm sorry, but your inability to play the game properly is not a reason to criticise this game. That sounds like the kind of thing, yeah, fair enough, you might have a problem with it in the first, like, 20 minutes of play, but you get used to it, right? Maybe they did only play it for 20 minutes before they reviewed it. Oh, scandal. Gamergate. Don't say Gamergate, blimey. Yeah, so what else do they say about it? The second opinions, there's one here and one here. They're a bit more constructive. They say things like, it's nice to have a game where you save the little androids instead of blasting everything in sight. Gives the game a bit of novelty. I would agree with that wholeheartedly, even today. It's nice. It's a nice novelty, that kind of gameplay. Another one talks about the level editor greatly increasing the longevity. Absolutely spot on. But yeah, I'm afraid 68%. 68%. Come on, guys. Seriously. Oh dear. No, that's at least a 90%er in my eyes. Now here's a game they did give 90%, Dungeon Master. Don't need to talk too much about this. They praise its absolute brilliance, and it is absolutely brilliant. So, I mean, not a lot to talk about there. Yeah, lots of mediocre games here. This game bizarrely gets I don't know if you can see that. Let's zoom in. 42.3%. 0.3%. Can you really measure a game's worth or quality to that kind of degree? I don't know. We're in the realms of Ace and their scores out of 1,000, aren't we? There we go. We've got Seconds Out, which got 54%. I mean, so many mediocre games. Beyond Zork, they give a bit more, 72%. I mean, I've not played Beyond Zork. I haven't played any of the Zork games, actually. I mean, I keep wanting to get into text adventures, but never quite manage it. Never quite manage it. This game they praise for because this is the one where they had a bit of a rethink of the interface. So you've got your description in this box up here, and then you've got the map of where you can go or where you've been, and then your actual interface with the program down the bottom here. So they give them some praise for that, but then they knock some score off for the fact that the text, the prose, is less verbose. There's not as much of it, which they found disappointing. So that was quite a good review, that one. I say one thing for the reviews in ST Action: they're very descriptive, and I like that. Not so relevant these days, maybe, because of YouTube videos and stuff like that. Games, if you watch a game being played, you don't need it described to you. But back then, it would be nice to have a really good description before you get their opinion on the game, because regardless of their opinion, you might actually like it according to the description. So kudos to them for that. Some more mediocre games here. Warlock got 56%, Formula 1 51, Trash Heap, where's the overall? 56. No, we're not doing well. 47 for Frostbite. Gunship gets a good score, 83. What does it say about this? Oh yeah, I remember it talking about the realism, and they really liked it. What else did they say? I think I wrote something down here. Where did I put it? They said it was very, very difficult but rewarding when you finally get to grips with flying the AH-64 gunship helicopter. As it should be, really. I mean, helicopters are supposed to be an absolute blast to control. So yeah, sounds good. What else? We've got Slapfight, and that was in the shoot 'em up roundup. Didn't do so well here, 58%, but plenty of people around that like this. They do like it. Always seems like a shoot 'em up construction kit game to me. But there you go. That's not very high praise, is it? And then yeah, so funnily enough, in ST Action, which always seems to be about games, there's this review of like a music composition software, which I've never used, so I don't know. Interesting score reviews down here. Not applicable for some reason. No idea why. Rockford gets a bit of a slating as well. I can see why. It's not as good as Boulder Dash, but still, it's got character. They said it was a bit gaudy. Gaudy. It's a bit gaudy. This wasn't gaudy. It was gaudy, and sometimes the controls weren't as responsive, and fair criticism, but still. Ultima 4 gets an absolute shoe-in as well. for its what do they talk about? Hang on, did I write something down? Yeah, it talks about how the conversations with other characters are really limited and a missed opportunity. It talks about these superfluous pretty pictures, but then in the next breath talks about the rudimentary graphics of this section. So that's a bit harsh. But they do praise the materials in the box. That I seem to remember there's a little like novella or something that draws you into the game, and the manual's really beefy and nice. But yeah, but then after all that, they gave it 56%. Not happy, not happy. I don't know if you've ever played any of the Ultima games, but there's some serious depth to them, and Ultima 4 is no exception. Maybe a bit like Oids, they played it for 20 minutes and made a snap judgment. Predator they gave more. Ultima 4, this is a shoddy game. An absolute shoddy game. I hate Predator. I played it loads. Was it part of the Power Pack? I don't know, but I know my uncle had it early on when he had his ST, so we pretty much played the death out of anything that we could get our hands on at that point. And we'd watch the Predator films, so of course we played the game, but it's so clunky. It's just not very fun to play at all. Get Dexter gets a shoe in as well, and I always thought this was highly regarded, but only maybe by a certain corner of the game playing public, I don't know, but it seemed like it was kind of the culmination of those kind of isometric adventure games. I don't know. I haven't really played it very much myself, so can't pass judgment. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, let's not move on, because that's the end of the magazine. Let's finish with this beautiful shot of a Ferrari. It's not a shot, it's a really nicely drawn Ferrari Testarossa there for Outrun on the back cover. Well, there you go. That was ST Action #1. I really enjoyed reading it. I mean, some bizarre things in there. The way they review games is very, very of its time. But as I say, very descriptive, which I thought was really good. But then when it came to giving their opinions, I don't know, it didn't seem like sometimes they had given the games very much time, or I don't know. They would seem very biased. At one point, I forgot to mention this, but what game was it? It wasn't Gunship. It was the other Jump Jet. It was the other flight simulator. And one of the second opinion guys opens his little bit of the review with, "Oh no, not another flight simulator." I mean, what? How are we supposed to care for your opinion after that? Oh dear. And then there was another bit. In the review of Get Dexter, I forgot about this. They'd written, "A game that you must get your hands on before you play. You'll either love it or hate it, so you need to play it first." At which point I'm thinking, so what's the point of your review then? Why even review the game if your conclusive comment is going to be, you better just play it and make your own minds up, because I don't know if you'll like it or not. Oh, I just thought that was really funny. But anyway, yeah, I love reading through these old magazines, and it's been really enjoyable sharing those things with you. I mean, if you've enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments and give me a like, because I'll do some more. And perhaps if you know there's a really good magazine that I can leaf through with you, then let me know and we'll cover it. But anyway, as always, thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you for liking and commenting and subscribing. Makes all the difference. Really spurs me on to make some more videos. So take care, guys. Bye bye.